This is the Your Kick-Ass Life podcast, episode number 64. All links and resources you hear on this podcast can be found by going to yourkickasslife.com/64.
This is the Your Kick-Ass Life podcast with Andrea Owen, a no BS guide to self-help and badassery. Because ladies, let's face it, life's too short for it to not kick ass. And here's your host, the girl who serves it up straight with a side of crazy, Andrea Owen.
Hey, ass kickers. Welcome to another edition of the Your Kick-Ass Life podcast. And as always, I am so incredibly grateful that you are here and that you stick around and listen to these podcast episodes, whether I'm solo or whether I'm with a guest. And today's episode is just me. And I'm going to actually resurrect an old podcast episode from February of 2012. This was over 3 years ago. I wrote a post about self-love, and it actually is one of my favorites because I kind of compiled this list of what self-love actually is. And so I'm going to get to that in a second. I don't really have, so I'm like sitting here at my desk about to record this episode, and I'm like, all right, what do I have going on in my personal life that I could share that's interesting or funny? And I got nothing. Because, to be honest, my life most of the time is pretty boring and normal. So we really just, we started school this year. I have a little one in kindergarten. My son is in second grade. And so we're just getting up to speed and started at a new school because we bought a house in a really small town outside of Greensboro, North Carolina, a town of 5,000. And for this girl growing up in Southern California and San Diego, it was a big change. Both my husband and I were born and raised in San Diego. So it was kind of a big change to move out here into really like a rural area, and we love it. It's amazing. It's exactly what we wanted. So we're just getting settled in this new house and a new school, and life is really, really good. I'm extremely, extremely blessed. So let's move on to the actual goods. All right. Here's the thing. I do my best to hear when the universe is speaking to me, when I get these downloads from the universe. And for one, I know I was put on this earth to teach and inspire and motivate all y'all. And one of the many things I teach people is how to love themselves. And to be perfectly honest, when I first went into business for myself and followed my intuition, intuition told me to teach about self-love, told me to teach about courage and the things that I teach you. I had this belief, I learned pretty quickly, and I kind of married this belief that self-love is a hard sell. And I came from the fitness industry. So in the beginning, I had this made-up notion that people really only want solutions to 3 problems. They want to know how to be thin. They want to know how to find their soulmates and have better relationships. And they want to know how to have more money. And that's it. And, I'm not saying that those things are inherently bad. They're not. But what was happening was that I didn't feel like self-love fit anywhere into that equation. For people that were looking for what made them happy, they were only looking for those 3 things to make them happy. And unless I was selling those 3 things, then I was pretty much going to be doomed as an entrepreneur. So 5 years later, what I have realized is that that's simply not true. I realized that at the end of the day, all humans want the same thing. We all want to be loved and to be happy and to give love. And the ironic thing is that the thing that people think that they're going to get from being thin, from finding their soulmate, and from having money is love, right? Is love and happiness. So it's kind of ironic. So, and if you're in a place where you think that those 3 things I mentioned above are what you need to be happy and be loved, as I always say, you're exactly where you need to be, and that's perfect for you. That's part of your journey. But I will tell you this. Self-love is the most important thing you need in order to have anything you want to make you feel happy, to make you feel loved, to make you feel fulfilled. And, of course I have to say it's to create your kick-ass life. Without self-love, you will constantly be wondering, it's like that whole, like, what is wrong with me? Why are things never working out? And why you aren't getting what you want. Self-love is the critical foundation in your happiness. And hey, by the way, I am hosting a free online workshop. And if you're listening to this on September 16th, the day that this podcast episode is coming out, it's today. So if you go to the selfloverevolution.com, you can sign up. If it's too late, you can absolutely get the replay for a few days after that. Or if it's easier for you, you can text the word register to 66866. Okay? And over time, I get emails from women asking me more about self-love. Like, what is this thing you say about self-love? I hear you talk about it. I'm not sure I have it. How do you get it? What does it look like? I have a great life, but I want more. I think self-love might be the solution that I need. It's like the missing piece. And it's funny, like I distinctly remember, because, we don't grow up learning about this, really. I mean, they don't have, after fifth period, self-love class. They really don't, which, don't get me started on that. I really do think that it's something personal development should be taught in schools, but I won't get into that. But I remember the first person that told me about self-love. I was 30, and I was going through my divorce, and I had gone back to school to finish my degree. And so my life fell apart while I had 21 units at the time at Cal State University, San Marcos. And I marched my butt into the counselor's office, the free counseling office, because I was like, Lord help me. Like, this is bad. And, I was listening to her sitting at the desk, and she kept saying, no matter what happens, I need to love myself, and that self-love was so important. And I was like, what is this foreign language that she's speaking? I didn't know. And that was really the first time anyone had ever talked to me about it, and I had ever actually listened. Maybe people had talked to me about it before, but I had never listened. Many years later, and a ton of major breakthroughs later, I can finally speak that language that she was speaking, and she was so absolutely very right. So this list that I'm about to read you is really a compilation that I've made that what self-love actually looks like. So I'm just going to read the list. And I have about 26 things. So self-love is about defining what makes you happy and fulfilled. It's about going after those things with no apologies to anyone. It's about embracing exactly who you are. Self-love is about owning your story no matter what it looks like, and forgiving yourself for past mistakes and looking for what you learned and how it's made you a better person. Self-love is living your life according to your own personal values and honoring each of them. It's about accepting that you are deserving of everything you want. Self-love is about loving every part of you, including your physical body. It's about acknowledging your humanness and accepting setbacks and moving forward instead of being taken away with them. Self-love is about managing that inner critic. It's about saying no, even when it's hard. It's about letting go of things that aren't serving you, including people. And dreaming and fantasizing about your dream life. Self-love is about taking inspired action and taking breaks and feeling your feelings instead of numbing them. Self-love is about asking the right people for support and help. Self-love is about sometimes taking risks. It's about surrendering to what is and letting go of control when necessary. Self-love is about failing with grace and being willing to be messy and imperfect, even in front of others. Self-love is about laughing at ourselves when it feels right. It's about listening to our inner voice of wisdom, about breaking free from the box, and not being fearful of what other people think of self-love. And that's what self-love really is. And really And I know it's easy for me to wrap that up in a pretty bow in, what has it been, 8 minutes or something like that. And really the true, I don't want to say test, like the true hard part of it is putting all of that into action. So I'm sure that a couple of those that I read, maybe all of them, maybe 10 of them, I don't know. But however many of them for you maybe made you cringe a little bit. And that's okay. That's okay. A lot of these make me cringe. Oh my God. The one about surrendering to what is and letting go of control when necessary. Shit. That one's hard. It's hard for me, and I know it's hard for a lot of my people, and, you know, being messy in front of everyone else and acknowledging your humanness, like a lot of them are difficult. And really the practice of self-love comes in these small everyday situations that we face where we need to call on our courage and actually practice it. Because it's one thing to listen to me talk to you about it or read a book about it or even attend the free online event that I'm doing. And it's a complete different thing to actually practice it in your life. So that's why I encourage you all to get inundated with all things personal development, the things that resonate with you, and actually practice it. And I've said this, I've been talking about self-love for weeks now. I'm on a self-love kick. And what I've said in my podcast I did with Amy and a couple of other times is that even just knowing that a tool could be used in that moment is a step in the right direction. Because awareness is half the battle. And sometimes even after the fact, something happens and then you look back and you're like, oh, that was a point in my life where I really could have taken a break instead of pushing through it. I really could have listened to my inner voice of wisdom. That would have been probably a better act of self-love. And I didn't do it. So instead, in those moments, instead of beating yourself up about it for being, for not using your tools, for being stupid, for being weak, or whatever your inner critic comes in and says about that, just practice self-compassion and know, okay, I know the tool. Next time, hopefully I remember the tool a little bit faster, quicker on the draw. That's okay. I do it too sometimes, and something will happen and I'm like, I really didn't implement the tool that I already knew. And it is about self-compassion and trying again and telling your story and being around people that get this work. And because when you have those people, it's your support system. It's one of the things I just listed. So again, if you go to theselfloverevolution.com, you can sign up for the free online event. Or if you just want to register quickly, you can text the word register to 66866. And I just want to say that I just adore you all. I'm just so happy that you listen to the podcast and that you comment on Instagram and Facebook and support myself and Your Kick-Ass Life. And it means the absolute world to me. I love you all out there, my ass kickers. It brings me so much joy to wake up every morning and know that you're there and you're listening. And I will continue to do this as long as there are people out there with ears that will hear it. And that being said, I will see you next week for another episode. And until then, I will see you out in cyberspace. Bye-bye.